I got in the car. So my mother-in-law is a Trumper, and she picked me and my wife up the other day. And first thing she turned around, I was sitting in the back. She's like, "Bitcoin, baby!" I was like, "Yes, bringing generations together, bringing family together. This is amazing. For more of this."
Welcome to the Never Die Podcast, your weekly crypto alpha for those who never quit. This is the Stay Hard, semi-weekly-ish, kind of monthly-ish update. And we're going to be diving into the market, talking about the ETH ETF, the elections, alts, the Fed pivot, macro, and a ton more. But just to start today off, when do you guys think... Okay, well, this is kind of ruined because before we started this podcast, I kind of gave you guys... some insights into what's going on. So maybe before I ask this question, I'm going to kind of give that spiel I just talked about.
Yeah, give us the summary. Tell us.
I'll tell you. So today I woke up and basically the global economy is on fire. It is in the bad way, like it's burning down. Okay, this soft landing the Fed has been promising us is not looking like a soft landing. It's looking like a very, very rough, hard landing that's about to happen. So the unemployment report came out today. It was described by macroeconomists as a dumpster fire. That was their exact wording, a dumpster fire. It's very, very bad. Okay, we have rising tensions, like global tensions are like rising to new levels. Just the stock market, there's $2 trillion in market cap wiped out today. As a whole, everything seems to be crumbling. Bonds are going crazy. And it is, most macroeconomists are saying that we are heading straight for a recession. Like the recession that everyone's been waiting for, it seems like it's finally arrived. It seems like, this is the takes I've seen on Twitter, that the Fed waited too long to raise rates. And then they made the mistake again, and now they've waited too long to cut rates. And everything is about to break. And so, okay, given that context, the question is, when are we going to see interest rate cuts from the Fed given that context? And I'll let you start, Noah, and then we'll go to you, Harley.
You know, I think it's awesome how like Polymarket is like, I feel like it's the number one place to look at to like understand what's going on nowadays with global economy stuff or politics and all these things. It's very interesting. So I think Polymarket before today showed a 79% chance of a 0.25% decrease, right? And so I think it's higher than that now. And so it's probably the rates. Maybe they do like a 0.5% cut. Like they're probably, if there's actually a recession, they're going to have to like start decreasing rates quicker to kind of, juice the economy up again. So yeah, I think this could just make things faster.
So I was looking at this yesterday. I don't remember exactly what it was at, but it was not this high. So yesterday, the Fed, there's on Polymarket, it said the Fed rate cut by. And it was pretty low chance. Like even for September, I think it was like 70%. Right now it's at 94%. By September 18th, we're going to see a rate cut, which is a pretty massive jump on the Fed rate raises. And now the odds for September. So Fed interest rate September is 64% chance we're going to see a 50 basis point decrease. So that's, if you don't know what basis points, it's just like 0.5%. So 0.5%, 63% chance. Did I just say 64? Did it just change in front of my eyes? I don't know. But that's actually a pretty big jump. It was a lot lower yesterday, a lot lower. It was something around 11% yesterday. So what that shows us is that the Fed has a high likelihood of cutting and that they did wait too long to cut this time.
I mean, I think one of the main things is that a lot of people are putting their money, like their extra money, they're putting into like money markets because the rates are so high. That means you're getting a good yield from just like these normal bonds and stuff. And so once they start to make those rates lower and lower, that means the value of those very kind of stable money markets and yields kind of go away, which means more people are going to then start to put money in more crazy assets like crypto. And so then people will kind of go out more to the speculative stuff. And that's a lot of money that's in those things right now. So that could start moving around if the rates go lower.
You guys ever seen the movie Land Before Time?
Hell yeah.
Okay, remember, I don't remember which one it was, but I remember like they get to like this valley and it's like all dry and desert and everything's dying and they're like, "Where's the food? Where's the food?" And then the kids like go on a trip or whatever, and then they like find this big dam, and then they like end up breaking the dam with like a T-Rex or something, and then like the water floods into the valley, and then like everything prospers. That's kind of what an interest rate cut is.
Littlefoot saved the day.
Yeah, Littlefoot saves the day. Well, in this case, Littlefoot's Jerome Powell, and when he cuts those rates, that liquidity that's about to flow into crypto and everything is basically the same thing as that dam breaking. It's just gonna get bananas.
Yeah. The what's it called, regarding, because we talk about top signals on this show a lot, and when Noah was just talking, I was kind of thinking about that for interest rates, because I get notifications from Robinhood and Coinbase about like earn 5%, 6%. I realize that non-crypto people, right? Because crypto's getting hyped when you start hearing from people about their gains, stuff like that. I start hearing, my mother-in-law talks to me about it. My friends who aren't in crypto, they talk to me about how much yield they're making on just their cash, which could be a top signal for that. So we definitely have to see a rate cut soon, especially if today is an indication of like how it's going to be going moving forward. There's no other option.
Yeah, I agree. Eventually, we'll see a rate cut. It's just about how long can Jerome Powell play chicken with the macro economy, and I think the answer is as long as he can, he will. And so we kind of need some stuff to break in order for him to switch positions. It's kind of what it's feeling like, because everyone was saying we're going to see rate cuts, like a ton of them this year. We haven't seen any so far, and so it really does feel like Jerome Powell just doesn't care, and he's willing to burn down this ship. And until the ship starts burning, he's not going to start, dousing the fires out. So yeah.
So that makes me think, how, Jesse, how serious is all this recession talk? I haven't really been on the internet yet this morning to see it myself, but it's like, I don't know, I've seen it time and time again, especially in crypto. People are short-sighted. Like there'll be some big news thing everyone's talking about, everyone blows up, and then like 5 days later no one's talking about it. It kind of blows over and we kind of just continue on as normal. Like, do you think this is another one of those things, or is this actually a big deal, what we're seeing here, like where it's like, okay, it actually is the recession this time? We've been talking about a recession for like over a year at this point, I feel like.
No, yeah, that's a very valid point. Is people have been forecasting a recession since forever, and it's never materialized. I would say there's always the chance that that's the case. I would point to the fact that unemployment going up higher than expected is a strong indicator of an incoming recession. The crypto collapsing and then the stock market collapsing is an indicator. But you're right. Next week it could turn around and be fine, and everyone freaked out for no reason. I think people like to kind of cry wolf a lot. And so I think that is a valid point. So yeah, either we're going to get a recession, or we're going to see some more bad stuff happen, and they're going to have to cut rates, or I guess they're not. But I think my point is that if it does get bad, that could be perceived, and I perceive it as very bullish, because that means the Fed's going to have to take that T-Rex and break open that dam. And when that dam breaks open, we're going to get those good star leaves they're going to be able to chew on, and that's going to be money in our bank account. Okay, so that's what we want to see. And we'll see. We'll see. Nothing's for sure. Things could change on a dime, especially in the next 3 months. It's an election year. It seems like things get more and more insane. So I don't even know what to expect. And you really can't count on anything. So
yeah, but I think we're also seeing the macro data is like supporting it for the first time, right? This isn't like Michael Burry's Twitter, where it's just like recession every week. Like people have been worried about it for, as you said, over a year. It's like been since like 2022. Right? Like, these rates are jumping. We've got inflation. We get stagflation. But we're actually seeing the cracks now. So, I think today in the market, the NASDAQ dropping 3% or whatever it was. I think Japan had like the biggest drop they've had since like the COVID crash. It could just be a one-day thing. The market will recover because it was just a data point, right? And you see like the Intel reporting, which is very, very not bullish. That's why we're going to have to see how it plays out before September. But if it continues that track, it's not going to be good, and we'll see something. And then it's time to pump the bags, baby. Right into October and the election.
That's what I want to see. So, and I think, COVID's a great example of the market crashed. Everyone was like, this is horrible. And then the Fed did their thing. And then it turned around to be one of the most bullish, insane seasons in the stock market and crypto's history. So like, yeah, momentary pain for, some really insane upward momentum isn't necessarily a bad thing. I think one day we will have the great reckoning, right? The day where it's like a true recession where like people are actually, like the Great Depression kind of thing where it's like actually horrible. But right now the Fed uses all their power to make sure that doesn't happen. It's just one day the Fed's going to run out of power. Like it's not going to be able to do its thing. But that day is not today. That's not going to happen today. I also want to highlight that yesterday the poly market showed a 79% chance of a 25 basis point decrease. Okay. And so today it's 64% for a 50 basis point decrease. And if you add the 25 and the 50 together, it's like 97% chance. Is that right? No, it's not right. It's like, it's up there. It's up there. 96, 97, something there. Percent chance that we're going to see at least a cut in September at this point. So that's pretty high odds. Even if you discount what's happening today, there's really high odds we're going to see a cut. And I think that's bullish. That is bullish. I also think that if the whole global economy like collapses and we see all this bad stuff, I think that's bullish Trump. And here's why. It wouldn't really matter who's in office or how much the responsibility was over what happened or did not happen. People like a scapegoat. And if the world's burning down, whoever's in office is the bad one. And whoever's coming to office is the good one. And I think it's far easier to kind of pin it on the Biden administration / Kamala than it would be Trump. And I think in that case, Trump would end up being a very bullish catalyst for the crypto markets. Let's go over the numbers of the ETH ETF.
Okay, so we've seen 487 million in sell pressure coming from the Grayscale ETF. So I think this is very similar to what we saw with Bitcoin, where like Grayscale had their version of the ETF that had like the higher fees, and people had already piled into those earlier, and so then those people are wanting to sell to get out. So I think we're seeing the same thing with Ethereum. It's just like happening quicker, maybe, and so that's why so far like we haven't really seen. I guess we've had a negative overall from the ETH ETF, but it's been a ton of volume though. So like I think people are saying it's like more bullish than there's a lot of volume. Maybe it's more than what some people were expecting, and it's just we got to get through getting these Grayscale ETFs to kind of unwind a little bit. So yeah, those are some of the numbers.
Yeah, Harley, can you break that down for like? Can you give like an overview of like how the Bitcoin ETF kind of played out, and then compare that to the ETH ETF, so that maybe for the average person who doesn't understand these things?
Yeah, well, I mean, the Bitcoin ETF leading up to it was just like this long charge and like rise in price. I think we went from the high 20s, low 30s off the top of my head to up close to 60K, I want to say, like prior to it. And then it was just a dump-a-rooney down to like the mid 40s. These are rough numbers off the top of my head, but and we had the same thing with Grayscale dumping like out a ton of it after it launched, and then you saw the climb following it. We have not seen that yet in ETH at all, as my portfolio would tell you. My ETH 2x leverage position is not very happy today or this week overall, but yeah, overall it somewhat followed the same thing. I think a lot of it is due to the Grayscale ETF. You didn't have the long run up prior because the price had ran up with the overall crypto market. In the month leading up, you didn't get like a huge rise in price in ETH, but I think it was already kind of baked in. So you had the sell off, the Grayscale is happening, and now's the time to see what's going to happen. But as we just talked about, the macro can affect that a lot. So if we're getting bad macro data now, you're not necessarily going to see the same trend that you saw with the Bitcoin one, whatever it was, 6 months ago or whenever it launched.
Yeah, the run up with Bitcoin, I think, was a couple different things. For one, it was just an overall bullish point in cryptos, like in the cycle, right? It was in winter. Winter just tends to be more bullish for crypto and like assets in general. And so I think we had a lot more momentum going up into it, but also like when Bitcoin went up, ETH also went up at the same time. So some of that was, like you said, priced in with the Bitcoin ETF, and we happen to be in a more bearish market state right now. So I think that's affecting it. I also think to a certain degree, because people saw how Bitcoin's ETF played out, they're like making assumptions on it being the same way with ETH. And so they're kind of front running it by not jumping in right away and kind of letting some of those outflows happen. So Grayscale's ETF, basically, it wasn't an ETF. They had a trust that had a ton of ETH in it. It was locked. It couldn't get out until it became an ETF. Now it can escape, and it's escaping because people have been wanting to sell this stuff. It's been at a discount. They haven't been able to sell it. A lot of people made a trade where they basically bought it at a discount, thinking that one day the ETF would get approved and they'd be able to sell it for the full price. That ended up working out for them. So there's just a lot of sell pressure from that. And until that's gone and depleted, it's overall working against the inflows, which have been record breaking for ETH's ETF. It is the second most successful ETF in history. It is and not even close. Like Bitcoin's the first, ETH's the second, and then the third place one's way down here. It is crushing what we've historically seen for ETFs in any recent ETF launches. So it's pretty amazing. And like Harley mentioned, the first within 3 days, the Bitcoin ETF was crashing, and it did that for about 13 total days before it started turning around, and then it went up for a month and a half straight. And so I'm expecting we see something kind of remotely simpler, in that when we run out of the outflows, the inflows will overwhelm, and it's going to just push that price up for an extended period of time.
Yeah, I hedged mine a little bit with my son's account that I tell you guys about every week. I kept some of his in cash for an exact situation like this. So yesterday I bought a little bit. Today, before market close, I'll probably buy a little bit more. Just anything I can get down to 3K and a little bit below 3K, I'm going in with that.
We're really rooting for your son to have something once they go to college with that account. It's come on, get that account going.
I'm telling you, it's become it's very different from how I feel like I'm trading this so much more responsibly than I trade personally. Because
it's my son's
love
money.
your kid so much more than you love yourself, right? Yeah, it's my son's money, right? I have to be better with it. So it'll be interesting at the end of the bull market, with limited assets I'm able to trade for him, to see who performs the best.
I was going to highlight as well that the Bitcoin ETF, I went back and did the math, and we saw about 28% of the overall Grayscale funds sell off as outflows before the inflows started to overwhelm the outflows. And interestingly enough, we've already sold off around 33% of the Grayscale ETF holdings for the ETH fund. So it feels like it could be a matter of time before we see this thing start to turn around. But given also, though, we're in pretty negative macro situation right now, so that might be a little bit tougher. But again, it feels like a matter of time before we have really scarce amount of ETH on exchanges. We have outflows slowing down. We have inflows that are only going to speed up, and we have a macro situation that is going to lead to Fed rate cuts, which that's going to help more and more money pile into things like the ETH ETF. It feels like this is a recipe for awesome, in my opinion, and that's the direction I'm heading.
Win ETH, strategic national reserve asset. Win that.
What about when ETH all-time high? When do you guys think?
What was the prediction last time? We had a prediction of 3 months post. I think we predicted a new all-time high post 3 months post ETF last week. Who was high? I think Andy was the highest.
Yeah, if you look at Polymarket, they have a bet going, and they say there's a 12% chance by Q3, 24% chance by Q4, and 66% chance no all-time high in 2024. And I actually disagree with that. But I don't know. What would you guys say? Disagree? Agree?
Yeah, I think there's gonna be an all-time high for ETH by maybe the end of November this year. That's what I would guess.
Yeah, how's the election affect that though? What if we get Kamala in the White House, and she's straight up never warms to crypto. She still wins, and she's like, you know what? You know who I hate? The crypto bros who are funding Orange Man, and she just comes in axe swinging immediately. Executive actions. Coinbase execute Brian Armstrong. The bags are sunk.
Well, first, I don't think she's going to win. But even if she did, I think there's a decent chance, people have been talking about this, that she's going to flip kind of maybe to be a little more pro crypto, or be nicer to crypto at least. So I could see that being possible. So I feel like the chances of there being someone against crypto in the White House is decently small.
I feel like it's just a stupid decision on her part or the Dems' part to be anti-crypto. I mean, we're the number one super PAC in the nation now. Crypto is the number one super PAC in the entire nation. Like there is no bigger contributor to the election, like election funding, than crypto right now, which is actually insane. And it's like more people hold crypto than own dogs or something like crazy like that. It's crazy. Like especially in swing states, like we're a big amount of a big portion of like on a percentage basis of swing states. So I don't know what it'd be like shooting yourself in the foot. Like at least lie about it and be like, hey, we're gonna help you. At least something. It doesn't.
Sometimes I feel like they're actively trying not to win. I'm like, how can different realities be this different? I listened to the Coinbase earnings call yesterday, and one of the things they're talking about was like the pact that they're part of, and the donation to it, and how they're focused on swing states specifically, and how strong it is in swing states. So exactly what you're just saying. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Buy yourself. They love inside trading. Buy some crypto and then pump your bags.
Yeah.
This is their deal.
If I was Nancy Pelosi, I would be buying some Bitcoin and ETH, and then I would flip hardcore on the Dems and be like, dude, we are going all in on this. I guess that's probably the moment when you see Nancy Pelosi buy the Bitcoin or ETH ETF, the Dems are about to flip heavy, and they'll protect their bags. So that'd be a bullish thing, in my opinion.
Yep. 100%.
All right. Well, cool. So let's move on to the election because we're kind of getting political anyway. And, it's an election year, so you kind of got to get a little bit into the weeds of politics because that actually has a big outcome for how crypto is treated moving forward. So right now, Trump and RFK have promised a strategic Bitcoin reserve. RFK was significantly more bullish. He said that he would buy 4 million Bitcoin, not $4 million of Bitcoin. Like of the 21 million Bitcoin, he wanted the U.S. government to buy 4.
RFK said that?
Yes. Over time, they're gonna slowly buy it up. I mean, that's too much almost. Like we don't want the U.S. government holding like 20% of all Bitcoin. I don't think it gives them too much control.
That would pump it so high because then China would have to outbid them, and like I don't even understand at what the price of Bitcoin would go to levels that even the most bullish Bitcoiners cannot comprehend at that point.
Yeah. Well, we just print more money to buy it, and then it become more valuable in relative terms to the money that we spent before. It's great. You can't lose.
Yeah. And I think people would price in the strength of the U.S. dollar because they're like, well, they have a lot of Bitcoin. So
didn't you say, or didn't you tweet that what Van Eck projected a $52 million Bitcoin in 2050 or something like that?
Yeah. Van Eck came out with their bull case for $52 million Bitcoin. That's a market cap of $1 quadrillion. It's actually pretty insane by 2050. And that's their bull case, not their base case. But that's still like a really, I don't know anyone that's that bullish. I don't know what Van Eck's been.
But also it's like, that's just like a guess. Like 2050, that's so far away. It's like we have no idea what's going to be going on in 2050.
Yeah. What was their base case?
I don't remember. I didn't pay attention to that number. I just saw that big number and I was like, that's a big number.
There we go,
baby. About that. Cool. So Trump promises strategic reserve. His promise was more. He was going to move the Bitcoin we have into a strategic reserve. He didn't outright say he was going to buy any. RFK said he'd buy like 4 million Bitcoin. And I don't know. What are you guys' thoughts about that? Like, what do you guys
Hell yeah, about that? Bro. I'd love it. I'm so excited. Like I got in the car. So my mother-in-law is a Trumper and she picked me and my wife up the other day, and first day she turned around, I was sitting in the back. She's like, Bitcoin, baby. I was like, yes, bringing generations together, bringing family together. This is amazing. For more of this. I love it. It's great for the price. It's great for. I love crypto so much. Like it is my number one like voting issue if I were to even vote, which I haven't done. I've done once in my life, and I did it like 12 years ago. All right.
Why are you not voting?
I mean, here I could vote for Trump, but I don't necessarily like Trump as a person. I think he's a bit narcissistic, but unfortunately, he represents all my interests. So, but also it doesn't matter, right? Like he's not going to win, like where I live in New York City. He's not going to win it. All I'm doing is putting on record that I supported him. And if he loses and they start executing supporters in the future, I've now put myself on the axe table,
So with Trump, it's like that would be really bullish if he, the U.S. already owns that Bitcoin, but if they just move it over to something that's basically signaling like we're going to hold this, like that would be a kind of a big signal for Bitcoin and the U.S. kind of getting behind it, I think. So that would be huge. But didn't like the day after or day or two after Trump said that, like the U.S. government started moving that Bitcoin around, and people are like speculating that they're going to sell it off, which in some ways would be a little bit hilarious. They're like, oh, Trump said they're going to keep that, and then the U.S. just starts dumping it all, which that would be terrible for the price.
I think that'd also be terrible for the Dems because that's like a very direct, we're anti-crypto statement, right? Like if Trump says he's pro-crypto, then we're anti-crypto, we're going to sell, and we're just trashing the crypto vote. I feel like they're in a stalemate now. They can't sell it. They can't sell it without saying we're anti-crypto. And as far as I know, they didn't sell it. They just moved it to Coinbase custody to eventually sell it, but they're not actively selling it. So that's at least something. Maybe they're in a stalemate.
If they sold it, Donald Trump would just say, we're going to buy it back. You elect me to president, we're just going to buy it back, baby. And it's just one more point for him. Like they're really stuck. Like it's so much money pouring against them and so much support from people. We said this during the bear market when we do like just the obsidian council, these things, right? It's like the people who dislike crypto will not win because the people who love crypto will carry it. Like no one hates crypto as much as the people who love it, right? And people will die on this hill. So all you're doing is the money's there. It's there to support. All you're doing is like kicking a hornet's nest of smaller players, like normal people who invest in crypto, and destroying their wealth in the name of protecting them.
Yeah, I heard somebody compare it to like hating people that own dogs and saying, hey, like we hate people that own dogs, and we're building an anti-dog army. And it's just like such a silly thing because you probably wouldn't rally a single vote. Maybe like one crazy person in like Montana is like, yeah, I'm voting for you. But like, you know, as a whole, you're just not going to get any votes that way. And you're going to get a lot of people who hate you that way. And that's the exact equivalent of being anti-crypto. You're not going to get any votes, and you're going to get a lot of people that hate you. In fact, they hate it so much that they've raised the biggest super PAC in that there is today to fund people that support crypto and work against those who are anti-crypto. So it doesn't make sense.
No, also, like, I read something. I think I can't remember where I read it. God damn it! But it was basically talking about the political leanings of crypto holders, right? So and it was actually like a majority, I believe, were like liberal voters. Like, so I don't know what that mixture looks like. I don't know about position sizing. It's like the more you hold, the more conservative you tend to be. Didn't dive into that, but I did find it interesting. So maybe those are the people just buying Cardano at the top every cycle. I don't know.
No, there were a lot of left holders. They've flipped right though. So like a lot of people I know in crypto have voted anti-Trump, pro-Democrat every election. And this election, not only are they voting Trump, but like they're really radical to a degree that some of them are like the most radical, like right that I've ever seen. Like they're going bananas on Twitter. And I think it's because I don't know why. Maybe that just kind of happens when people kind of flip on an issue maybe they believed really deeply. They sometimes overcorrect in some ways.
You feel fooled.
Yeah, you feel fooled. So maybe it's like a vengeance thing. But yeah, they have caused so many Dems to flip red this election because of their attack on crypto. And but what do you guys think it would take for Kamala to be considered a believable crypto candidate?
I don't know. I feel like, okay, so she could come out and say like, we're going to, have innovation of crypto in the US and we're going to support crypto. I think, similar to people kind of don't completely trust Trump even when he's saying this stuff because it's like, all right, it's all just politics. You're just trying to get the crypto vote. I think especially for Kamala, it would feel that way where it's like, all right, you guys, you're basically just coming out here to try to get the crypto voters to come back. I think as you guys are talking, like, I think that could work to some degree of like flipping some of those crypto voters that are already kind of on the left side. Like they would probably really like that. And they're like, all right, we'll take that. But I don't think everyone's really going to believe it completely. Yeah, it just seems like she would be pandering the crypto voters and just trying to get us to jump back over.
It would be very, very difficult. Like and look, I'm a California guy, right? That's Kamala, right? She prosecuted some of my friends actually. So I have close ties. I have close ties to her back up in San Francisco. I love her. Friends. Let's call it. But with everything the Democrats have done, with how she's viewed to people, the pressing they've done on the crypto issue has really pushed people to look at things, and it would be very difficult, I think, for people to switch back. So she would have to be very blunt, very straightforward, no dancing around it, say exactly what she's going to do, make illicit promises. And I don't know, show up to like events or something with Brian Armstrong, like have meetings with like heads of like the crypto community to gain any kind of trust, honestly, because she needs those people like talking her praises, because they constantly say like on their earnings call, stuff like that, like crypto's nonpartisan. It's like, yeah, like it is, but the people who you end up giving money to at the end of the day supporting it are on one side for the most part. So she got a long road, and I don't know if she can ever achieve it in this short time.
See, I feel like words aren't enough. I feel like the Biden administration's in power. People are kidding themselves if they don't think that, like, if Biden's saying he stepped down to support the Democrats so that they'll win, then why wouldn't he do whatever it takes to support them that they'll win? And that includes right now, they can fire Gary Gensler. They can start buying Bitcoin or say that they're creating this strategic reserve and actually do it. I think the Democrats have to take action. And I think they're actually uniquely positioned and in a position of power to do so. So they could actually win a huge portion of the crypto vote by saying, hey, we are not going to say we're doing these things. We're doing them right now. Like right now we're doing them. And now you have to choose between Trump, who says he'll do things, and us who have done things. And it's a really easy way to win. And I think if they're serious about it, that's all they got to do. And if they don't do that, then they're honestly not serious about it. And I personally can't take anything that they're saying as truthful, even though I want them to. I want it to be nonpartisan. I want both parties to say we are pro crypto, we're pro innovation. But as a whole, it really feels like the left is very anti-innovation, which is weird because historically, like they're progressive, right? They're like all about innovation, but they're anti-tech. They have been attacking new technologies like AI, crypto, etc. And that's historically what the right does. The right's historically like, hey, no, traditions, like we got to stay where we're at. And they're pro-tech, they're pro-innovation, they're pro-capitalism on the right now. So it's a really weird place where like the right is essentially what the left used to be. They're very liberal, like in a classical sense. And the left is like very religious in a lot of ways with like, in my mind, I kind of feel like we were a very religious country, a very Christian nation. And then people left Christianity, but they needed something. And they almost created a new religion out of wokeism. It's very, very similar. It reminds me of like a similar kind of feel to what we saw in like the early 90s and 80s. I don't know. Do you guys agree with that, or do you think I'm just crazy?
Yeah, we talked about that actually in, I think, North Carolina. I think the first time I actually met you, we talked about that, like it becoming like a new form of religion. I've watched YouTube videos on that as well. And I wholly agree. I was making this point the other day to my wife. It's just like, when did Democrats become like pro-pharma and pro-war, and the conservatives become the anti-war, anti-big corporation? Like,
yeah, I've seen a lot of like, I follow a lot of different tech people on Twitter, and it seems like a lot of Silicon Valley has kind of switched to like kind of supporting Trump, and a lot of them like JD Vance because he has some background in tech and knows a lot of people over there. So it's like there's definitely a lot of swapping kind of going on. And it sounds to me, Jesse, like the Democrats need to kind of hire you as an advisor to, how they should handle this crypto situation. Because I think I agree that like if the Democrats actually started doing stuff like you're saying, like started like buying up Bitcoin, fire Gensler, like that would be a pretty big statement. I just don't know if they could. I don't see them actually doing any of that stuff. But it's just kind of crazy how much politics has like the talk of everything in crypto now too. It's like usually it's like, oh, we don't want to talk about politics, like who cares? No one really wants to say what they think about that. But it's like it's like the main news in crypto now is politics. So I guess we have to talk about it now.
Yeah, so. It is funny like that. Now, I'm not very political myself. I'm like, I would vote left or right. I'd vote red or blue depending on the way they stood, right? And so I agree with free speech. I agree with free markets, small government, not going in endless wars. And again, historically, that's actually been a position of the left. Now that's a position of the right. And I think, the right made some big mistakes with like the Patriot Act and some of the insane things that happened during the Bush era that was just horrible. But now that's when they had the power, though. And now the left has the power and they're doing the same things. it's all kind of crazy. And I think at the end of the day, like net, the loser is the American people, and the American people have lost a good part of like what made our country such an amazing country. Was we were run by a lot of strong leaders, and it feels like a lot of the people in power today are not those strong leaders that we've seen in the past, and we need to get back to that. But I think we've gone pretty off script. I do want to bring up.
I got more. I do, but let's get back to it.
Well, we are going a little bit more in it. Have you guys seen the Google search bias toward Kamala? So like, where it's like if you search Donald Trump, it'll come up with like Donald Trump, Kamala Harris news, and it's all pro Kamala Harris, anti Donald Trump. Like it was like Kamala Harris wins this thing and this thing, and then the Donald Trump section was under the Kamala Harris section, and it was like Donald Trump's evil 2025 plan or something like that.
If you search Trump rally, you'd expect, I'm going to see like, where's Trump going? What's all this stuff about? And all the like top 5 hits were all about Kamala and where she's going, what she's doing. And it's just crazy.
Yeah, it was crazy. And it's not just that. So if you search Kamala Harris, it's all Kamala, no Trump. But also there's just overall, like, it feels like a media bias toward Kamala. It feels like the media was like constantly downplaying Trump's assassination. They wouldn't use certain images because it made him look too heroic.
Yeah, Facebook blocked
They kept changing.
Facebook blocked the images, and then later they said it was an error.
Well, apparently Zuck called Trump and apologized and said that like it was his team or whatever, but he undid it. So that was interesting. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys honestly think about all this stuff? Because it feels really, I don't know. To me, it feels really propaganda-y. Which is weird because I feel like I'm normally like a really balanced, not conspiracy theory guy, but it feels really very much so that like the media is almost just like an extension of the Democrat Party, and they're very skewed towards those values and very anti. Maybe it's just Trump, but they're very anti any sort of Republican platform or saying anything positive about the other side.
The Democrats are definitely like in some ways like a lot of the mainstream media is kind of leaning Democratic, and I feel like they kind of are all kind of in cahoots together. So it's like they want their side to kind of win, and so they're trying to push that narrative for themselves. And so yeah, I feel like there's definitely like some fishy kind of stuff going on. I mean, we definitely saw this with like the Trump assassination attempt, where it's like, on Twitter and on place where there's free speech and people talking about it, like everyone was like, in some ways kind of pro Trump and how he handled that, and like this is a crazy thing, and it's kind of like an American thing that happened. It didn't necessarily have to be Republican versus Democrat, but then you see all the mainstream media kind of like try to like censor all of that talk and just like not show that to everybody else, and which is pretty crazy. Yeah,
they said he tripped. The first articles were like Trump trips at rally.
Yeah.
It was like the most absurd thing. He got shot, and they're like Trump trips.
Yeah.
And they made it seem like he was senile, like Biden.
And to some degree, like that kind of stuff has worked, because it's like, at least in my adult years, like that, like assassination attempt was one of the kind of like the craziest like political things that has happened. And, I could see like lots of people were kind of turning to support Trump because of that. And like people feeling like, okay, he's going to win now. Like, this is like, he is showing that he is really actually for America, and he's fighting for us and all this kind of stuff. And it's like, I think his rating on CoinMarket went almost up to 90% chance of winning, like, with the days
it was crazy, yeah,
following that. And now he's back down to like 55% chance. So it's like they've kind of pushed it, and it's like people are starting to forget that whole thing even like happened.
Yeah, it does feel like people have forgotten that it happened. And, but I think some of what it is there's like almost a honeymoon period with Kamala that I think will eventually wear off, where there's going to be a correction one way or the other. She's just new and exciting, but it's like you mentioned 3 weeks ago, Trump got almost assassinated. That was everything, and now people have forgotten about it. So right now, Kamala's the front and center, but I feel like in a couple of weeks that she'll be kind of old news too, and we'll find more of a medium ground. I think it's still anyone's election in many ways, because so much could happen in the next 3 months. But I think as it currently sits, I think Trump is firmly sitting to win. But like I said, I think that could change.
Yeah, I think I've been through most of my life, like I'm registered as independent. Like I told you guys, I voted only once, and that was for Obama in like 2012. I've become more conservative over time. and I've always kind of prided myself on trying to be in the middle of issues. And I found myself pushed farther and farther to one side, not just because of the crypto stuff, just like many things about it. And like seeing the coordination over many years with media to push one side's agenda, reeks, right? So when you have people, I think, and it's not just me and Jesse here have expressed, I've heard this from many people, basically people who have always been somewhat in the middle, actively trying to convince themselves that there's no deep state, to convince themselves that there's not. Like, it's not looking good, right? It's not looking good. And I can go on about this for a long time, but it's all part of a pattern, right? Like Trump gets impeached over the quid pro quo stuff in Ukraine. You can go on YouTube right now and watch Joe Biden brag about doing quid pro quo to that same country, and nothing ever happened, right? And it's not because he's Republican or anything like that. It's just there's like a neoliberal, which encompasses neocons. There's like a strategy we've had for a very long time that anti-establishment candidates like Trump and Bernie Sanders were never part of. So that's why candidates like that are sort of sabotaged by traditional media and traditional outlets so much more so than anyone else, right? And because they don't serve the agenda when they're in the office. And this is just an extension of that, right? Google is the ultimate machine propagated by the mainstream, right? So, and I know that sounds like a little conspiracy theory, but just look at the evidence over time. It's hard not to believe it at some point.
Yeah, that's funny you mentioned that. You voted for Obama in 2012. My entire like adulthood voting, I've never actually voted for the left or the right. I've always voted for a third party candidate. Literally every single year, I voted for a third party candidate. This is probably the first year that I'm going to vote for a non-third party candidate. I think I'm leaning towards voting for Trump. It's either going to be Trump or RFK. I keep going back and forth. RFK is, I know, a throwaway vote, but it's about like, can we get enough attention on a third party candidate so that one day in the future there's like a hope that that's a real possibility. But I'm if it's moving me and able to get me motivated that direction, maybe there's a little bit of hope that more people are seeing this, and we kind of course correct a little bit back more to the middle, where both parties get along and recognize that each has a strength and a weakness, and that they actually do better working together and being more moderate than having kind of these extreme polarizing groups within each camp that are kind of pushing the nation toward chaos and a lot of division.
Yeah, well, you're seeing this stuff, right? Like, so when we talk about who's going to win, right? I also think it's Trump. I think you mentioned that as well, despite what the momentum's looking like right now. And I think part of that is because society moves slow, right? So the changes you're talking about, I think you're seeing that now. So I read this this great article, I forget which outlet it's from, on like voters under 30, men and women, right? Age 19 to 29 or 18 to 29. And men have gone from about 55 to 60% voting for Biden in 2020. And this is polled when Biden was still a candidate in June, July, down to 36% support for him, right? And they swung like pro-Trump basically, and more conservative in Congress as well. And they cited many issues, right? That's women's gains on them. That's the DEI stuff, and it's a masculinity thing. Those are all things that were like quoted in the research. And putting Kamala Harris in does nothing to address any of those issues, right? It's about longstanding issues they've had with the Me Too movement getting overblown, or Black Lives Matter, or whatever it is, right? And I don't think you overcome that at this point.
All right, well, let's move on. Alts. Okay, alts been bleeding over the past, let's call it, couple months. What do you guys think is going on with alts? And do you guys think alts are going to make it? And if so, when do we see some attention and some rotation back into the altcoins? Because it's been a long time. We had a meme season. I felt like the majors did pretty well, but alts have just been sitting over here slowly, just suffocating. So what do you guys think on that?
Yeah, I think, if we just look back to previous cycles, I think it basically it's going to take time for, once Bitcoin and Ethereum start to do well, maybe, kind of like we were talking about end of this year, if they start to get to all-time highs, then soon after that, I think the alts will start to perform very well. So I think they're just kind of following Bitcoin and ETH and just like, all right, what's going to happen here? What's going to happen with everything else? And in the meantime, they're going to kind of just suffer before we kind of come back. And because once we go to all-time highs, it's like people want to play around again. They're like, all right, I got this cash, I got this money. Let's go see what we can trade and do and make some money with. And like, it's going to bring the degen people back out for sure. So I think it's just a matter of time till we get back to that.
Yeah, I mean, same thing. Alts are not dead. There's a bunch of very speculative plays, great companies. You know, it'll happen again. The things will seem too expensive. People crawl down further on the Coinbase listings and find things that are smaller and cheaper. Then some people will dig into the Web3 wallets. They'll get pumped things by influencers. Well, it'll be fine. But if Polygon could turn around now and save my personal retirement portfolio, that would be great. If anyone is listening at Polygon can hear me.
Polygon has been so brutal. So brutal.
So brutal.
Yeah, September 4th, I think, is the date to watch that with the poll, the Matic to poll. That's the first catalyst. If we don't see some traction off there, I'd be very nervous about Polygon. But I'm with you. I'm heavily invested in Polygon as well, hoping we see some action there. And I agree with you guys. Like, a lot of things change, but people never do. And when we have all we need is one crypto to really, really do well. Some Bitcoin, ETH, one of the majors. And then people are going to say, hey, I missed that, but what about this smaller one? That's going to go up, and people are just going to follow it all the way down the line until they end up in meme coins, Ponzi's, etc. And then obviously people over leverage and the whole thing collapses. So I really think that is just going to play out again. I think the debate is not if that will play out again. I think the debate is if it'll adhere to the typical 4-year cycle or not. And I don't know this time. Macro could always throw a wrench in that. But also, if we're right about the Fed rate cuts, then that's right on time. If Fed starts cutting rates 50 basis points in September and then just keeps cutting October, November, December, I gave you guys an analogy before we went on the show. It's like taking somebody who's tired and just like feeding them copious amounts of cocaine. Like the economy is just going to spur to life, and it is just going to be going crazy. And that the markets will be going bananas. And really, that is a great analogy because people's brains are like, it's like they're on drugs. They switch from this weird fear mindset that we're in right now to this like overly greedy mindset where it's like they can't sell even though they've made enough money to change their life forever because they want more and they can't stop. And there's like they're an addict hooked to the dopamine rush. So
if you think we get
it does get bananas.
If we get a 50 basis points drop in September and then have a great October and then we get Trump in November, like, do you guys think like it blows up so quick that we have just like that actually translates the cycle a little bit left? So instead of being like end of 2025, we get like earlier in 2025 just because there's too much bullishness up front? I
don't think it throws it left. I think it just sends it higher.
No, I can deal with that.
Yeah, I think we go higher and longer. But I think if we really would have kicked off, like retail would have come back early this year, that could have thrown it left. But it really, I think the psychology of it all plays out the same and that it goes on a certain time frame. And I think that's why we didn't see retail come back earlier in the year is because they were still too scarred. It takes a while for their scars to heal. And I think the scars are healing. And I've actually heard people say that they've had friends come to them and say, hey, I think Bitcoin's going to go up. I'm ready to get back in. And they haven't talked to them since the last cycle. So people are starting to slowly get interested again. They're over it and they're ready to start going again.
So if that's true, basically your ability to gain in crypto, right? Because you show up, you get wrecked your first cycle, and then you stick around or come back very quickly to get in at the bottom and start again. It's directly correlated to your healing factor. So if you take a long time to heal, you continually get hurt, and by the tops, like the more Wolverine you are, the more your gains.
I've never thought of it like that, but that's so true. The harder you are, the more resilient you are, the better you do in crypto. If you take a long time to heal and you're too fragile, you're the guy that gets wrecked every single
That's why you got to stay hard. That's why we're here.
Stay hard, baby. Nice.
Stay hard. Dude, I just changed the podcast to Stay Hard. I like that name so much better. Cool. Okay. Well, hey, I was going to do 3 alts to 100x or more this cycle if you guys had one. But let's just do one. If you had to pick one alt, whatever. This is just for fun. This is not investment advice, and there's no promise that any of these will. But if you had to pick one, it's like a hypothetical situation, like would you rather drown or be burned alive kind of thing. Like if you had to pick one alt to 100x or more this cycle, what would it be? Starting with you, Harley, because you're the most irresponsible one of us.
This is going to do nothing to dispel that, by the way. So I had a few. And this one, I do have like a small thesis behind it, but it's gonna be like the Pulse X, Pulse Chain, like Hex ecosystem. Yeah, I know. Hear me out. I know. Trust me, I know. All right. So I own a little bit of it from back in the day because I did very well with Hex, and so I've stuck around. I sacrificed a little bit at the end. Got to airdrop some of it. I actually just bought a little bit more because it's been down so much. But the sacrifice wallet. So here's how Richard pumped it the first time. Right. He took all the money in ETH. He waited for the markets to pump, and he basically cycled that money back through, restricted the supply, and sent the to Valhalla, right? Crazy returns. And then he's on Twitter talking about his penis is the size of a Red Bull can, and he has the biggest watch or whatever, right? Crazy stuff. And right now, he's still on there, on Twitter. He's still active. He's still around, right? So he hasn't gone anywhere, even though he's dealing with the SEC stuff. And even though Hex is down like 99.999%, right? He's still comparing it to Bitcoin. He's still got a rabid following of people. A lot of people think he's a scammer, but that's what they thought going into the last one as well, right? That doesn't necessarily stop it. And when ETH hits $4,000 or $5,000, the sacrifice wallet will have $1 billion to spend. I did some hypothetical buys on with $100 million. If I did $100 million one buy on Pulse Chain, it would send it 400x. Right? With $100 million. I think he'll do that, and I think he'll try rotate. So I'm just put a small amount of money into it, very small, gambling that he's so narcissistic and crazy. I mean, in fact, he's still around on Twitter doing all this stuff, even though the SEC's after him. And he said many times this is basically how he does it. Gun to my head, I'll throw a little bit of money at that. I'm advising nobody else to do that whatsoever, though. This is a lunatic's gamble. So... But I think it could.
Yeah, Richard Hart is probably the biggest scammer in the space. I think there should be a tier for Richard Hart. But man, if that works out, I'll get you a trophy, man.
Thank you.
That's a crazy one.
Yeah.
What about you, Noah?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense though that to get 100x, it has to be a very speculative play, right? And it's got to be something that's maybe not done much up to this point, and then all of a sudden, for whatever reasons, it blows up. So I have one, and again, I don't really know. I have no idea, but this is, maybe there's a chance. Maybe there's a chance there's 100x. So I've been... Just
so you know, I'm going to put $10,000 on whatever you say right now, so be responsible.
Okay. So I've been, kind of plugged into the Base blockchain Farcaster ecosystem, and there's some interesting tokens that have kind of come out of there. And so this is a very much if Farcaster blows up, tons of users, tons of people are using it, then some of these tokens I think have a decent chance to do well. And the other thing with 100x, I feel like it almost has to be a meme token to do 100x. To have something where you can get in on the ground floor, it's basically got to be a meme token, I feel like. So for 100x, this token's called Higher. And right now it just has a 10 million market cap. And it's all around the meme of the price is going to go higher. It's going to keep going higher. And why I think this could do well, it's I think a couple months ago it was at a 30 million market cap. So it's a little down since then. But it has some of the bigger accounts on Farcaster that have kind of been behind it. They're holding it, and so there's some bigger players on Farcaster. You could kind of call them influencers, I guess. Not really in Farcaster terms, maybe, because they just have the bigger followings. But they're kind of behind Higher. So I think once things in the markets overall start to do well, I think Higher could have a chance. And it's at a low market cap of 10 million, where to 100x, we're talking $1 billion. So maybe there's a chance it could get there, being one of those tokens. So that's my pick.
So it's funny. You're bullish on Base. I have another token for you on Base that's not a meme, and that would be Una token. So I'm bullish on Persona.
This guy's such a simp for this ecosystem. Such a simp,
dude. I am. So Persona, it's a game. It's built by game studio Unagi. Unagi's all ex Ubisoft developers. So they're they worked on games like Far Cry 3, The Division, etc. They split off, started their own crypto gaming company. They have 2 live games in the sports category that have around 30 to 50,000 monthly active users. And they're about to launch another game in the Persona universe. So for me, I'm really bullish because the token's sitting right now about $6 million market cap. Okay, so if it were to 10x, that's 60 million, and if it were to 100x, that's 600 million. And versus a meme token, they actually have utility. They buy back and burn their token based on revenues, and they're already a profitable company. So if you're bullish on crypto gaming as a whole, and you believe we're going to have a crypto gaming kind of like rally incoming, then I think that's a pretty easy play of like, hey, I'm, get pumped about that one. But that's not my one. I was just because you were bullish on base.
I was going to say, like, I definitely agree. There's definitely going to be some crypto gaming projects that like 100x for sure. I just think it's so hard to pick them and then know which one it's going to be. But there's going to be some for sure. So I'm rooting for you.
Perion.
I also thought Cock could do it. By the way, I thought Cock was kind of my other pick because it's at like $112 million market cap, so which means like it gets to like a $12 billion market cap, and like it would be 100x.
Yeah, it's always possible. But anyway, so plus the added one for Una is that it's on base, so you have all your base theories come with it. But the one I was going to say, and I could name a ton. So there's actually quite a few 100x plays where I'm like, oh, that could be one. But I picked Winner. So Winner is one that I'm really bullish on. Price has not done well. I think I'm down like 50% of my position right now. So brutal. But the whole market's down. So the whole market's been crashing. But the reason I'm bullish is it's on Arbitrum and Solana, and they're building infrastructure for on-chain gambling. And not only that, but they have like a predictions market. They have like their own version of Pump.Fun. It's like this whole idea of like tapping into the heart of the crypto space, which is speculation, and doing it on chain, where a lot of these gambling platforms, like you look at Rollbit, they're doing, some months they'll do like $50 to $70 million in revenue, which is insane. But it's not actually on chain. So like they're just like a normal gambling company that has a token and you can buy with crypto. Versus like a fully on chain one is just an inherently a much different thing. And the way that Winner is structured is it's not trying to be like a front end, but it's more like an app store model where they build the infrastructure and then people come build front ends for it. So you could build your own front end, tap into their infrastructure and not have to worry about like all that kind of stuff. And so they could have 1,000 front ends built on Winner that are all competing with different like branding, marketing, etc. And then there's a bunch of like on-chain games that Winner's launching too. All that together, it's sitting at around, man, I don't know off the top of my head, it's like 6 or 8 million, maybe.
Yeah, I finally bought in on this last dip. Finally, because I hadn't gotten in yet.
Winner's sitting at around 7.9 million in market cap. So if it were to 10x, that's about 79,000 or 79 million, and at 100x only 790 million. And I just remember distinctly last cycle that there was the stupidest projects that were hitting like 500 million to like 800 million. Like anything could hit that with enough attention. I specifically remember like Elon's dong rocket or something like that, like Elon's big dong rocket or something. And it was like sitting at 500 million. I remember that to this day because I was like, how is this thing so big? But anyway.
I want a meme coin after me this cycle. I want a goddamn meme coin.
But I just remember being like, man, this is like worthless, but it's sitting at 500 million. And there's a lot of projects. There was like Time Wonderland hit like 4 billion market cap. So it's like Ponzi's, crazy scams, all kinds of stuff was hitting above $1 billion consistently last cycle. And it felt like it was almost cheap at some points to buy something at 500 million. So I could see something like Winner surpassing that. And if it really saw some attention and got some traction, they do about a couple billion in volume right now, and they've gotten about 2 million in revenue. So if they really got some traction, I could see them really gaining some ground. So that's one I'm pretty bullish on.
Do you know where to track market caps over time rather than price over time? That's something, because I didn't pay any attention to market caps last time outside of the big caps, and it's really upset me.
Yeah. If you go on CoinMarketCap, there's a market cap tab. You click on it and it'll show you a chart for some projects. They usually have to be bigger. If they're smaller, it doesn't
like where
always.
I can look at an entire market of like rather than just looking at individual prices, like if I could see like aggregated data of like top 50 coins market cap on like this date.
Oh, yeah. If you go to CoinMarketCap, you click on like one of the top things on the left, there's something called historical snapshot. And then you can go to any month and see what crypto prices were at that time.
All right, I'll play with that off.
Awesome. Well, this has been great. As always, none of this is investment advice. None of this was us telling you that you should buy any of these things or do anything based off of what we said. This is always for, entertainment, our thoughts. I think of it as a giant Pinterest board, like, boom, here's some information of a way, some people think, and you use that information to kind of like make your own judgment calls on things. It's kind of the way I think of it. So yeah, none of this investment advice. Always make sure you're doing your own thing. And as always,
stay smart, stay strong, stay hard, my friends.